So, you've heard it here, probably within the industry and many other locations, but we now firmly know that Boeing won't be progressing with a new commercial aircraft for quite some time. Yes, that includes the new middle-of-the-market airliner that they were rumoured to have been working on towards the end of the previous decade, but have since shelved such plans. Do be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. The channel is getting very close to the 30,000 milestone. Such a decision has caused many questions from those within the industry, observers, and much more. So, let me explore the decision-making at Boeing, what the future holds according to them, and does such a decision play into the hands of Airbus, and much more, really trying to determine that if such a decision by the company can be labelled as risky. There was a lot of uncertainty about Boeing's next aircraft toward the end of the 2010s, which only increased during the early stages of the 2020s. Naturally, for the first part, Boeing entered some of its darkest days, as the plane maker, one could argue, with the tragedies of the 737 MAX, highlighted many internal issues that needed sorting. This was also met with the unfortunate global pandemic that no one predicted and changed so much. Boeing's resources, like many other companies in the aviation industry, became limited, and direct issues were put at the forefront, as they simply didn't have the manpower to go and be doing other activities, if you will. Additionally, many believe this was a defining period for their next decade, and instead of focusing on the next couple of decades, the plane maker had far bigger issues that presented themselves that were proving difficult to move past. While I've already mentioned the 737 MAX and that road to recertification, I'm yet to mention the 787 quality assurance difficulties, the 777X certification program, and a few more internal problems. I don't need to go in depth about those, but it paints a picture of a company that was struggling. So it seemed the talk very much quietened down on such an NMA, and while airlines, leasing companies, and many more expressed their desire for such a plane, as they exhausted all available life on aircraft such as the 757, maybe even the 767, they simply received very to little no answers on a firm replacement. Until last year, when we got that confirmation that I think deep down we probably expected, but maybe a lot of us didn't want to hear, and very formally, any rumours, discussions, speculation, and anything in between surrounding a new aircraft was put to bed, when the Boeing CEO ruled out development on such a plane until at least the middle of the next decade, so we're talking the 2030s, when he said they looked to introduce the next piece of engineering that would stand true as a worthy upgrade to existing life. So without an NMA, many people then think, just what is next for the American aircraft manufacturer? And it's a very valid question. Boeing has been largely successful in upgrading its existing equipment, excluding the 787, which was a clean sheet. Notably, the 737 series comes to mind for me, which has seen upgrades throughout the decades, and has been a massive commercial success on each occasion. The MAX certainly pushed the limits, and ultimately there was a very taxing price to pay on all fronts. Now, despite what happened, Boeing continuously attracts interest and firm commitments, because it's a plane that is simply required right around the globe, and wherever you stand on the matters that played out, it is hard to ignore that's part of the plane's identity, the need for it. And these incremental upgrades to each plane are typically cheaper than launching a new risky, say, clean sheet, and more often than not will attract substantial interest. I think many people would be in the camp that the 737 MAX will be the last iteration of the 737 series before they'd likely make a bigger jump for their next single-aisle jet. Away from this, Boeing wants their next plane to be revolutionary, which is certainly an interesting position for the plane maker to put itself in. Why? Well, Boeing is an iconic company. You really can't dispute that. And in the past, it was known as a plane maker, and especially just generally a company that if you worked for it, well, you were golden. There was a sense of pride in pulling on the uniform with the logo. It represented hope and a culture that was really highlighted through the work of the incredible Joe Sutter and his Incredibles when building the 747. Innovation was really key, and they continued to push push each other to build the next best thing, to really change the world as we know it and bring in the commercial jet age. However, according to some, this has been something that maybe has been missing in recent years. Thus, creating innovative new aircraft with updated technology is maybe heading more towards their roots, and mean that for airlines requiring a new plane, well, they'll be ordering a jet that will truly bring in the next era, and will harp back to maybe the olden days of Boeing aircraft in terms of design and production. No, I don't mean we're going to be getting something as old as the 707, but the principle of innovation will be there. However, in saying this, there are actually substantial risks with this. The prospect of new technology being proven and actually readily available in the window that's targeted, or when customers need new planes, is pretty risky. With no aircraft now, Boeing has actually left itself wide open to be under attack from European plane maker Airbus, who thus far are proving very successful in a market where, bar attempts from Comac that probably are never going to gain that much traction, are pretty much unrivaled. It's a dangerous game Boeing is playing, according to many. Is it too risky? That's something for you to comment on down below in the comments. However, it's been known for some time that there are frustrations at airlines that required such a plane to replace their older middle-of-the-market units, that yes, while have Airbus's offering, are simply left unsatisfied with the replacement, always thinking about what could have been. This is always especially highlighted at Delta, who have actually opted for Boeing technology, the 737-10 alongside the A321neo series. However, and a massive however, according to sources, they still would have preferred a dedicated replacement for a series that has been critically important to their operations for some time. Delta, being a major US carrier, is one example of many that have emerged through the years. You've heard me make mention of some, not just here on this channel, but also on the main aviation news channel and wider publication. Carriers, companies, and much more have expressed interest, firmly and some loosely, but they just haven't seen progression on the plane, and it's come to a point for some companies where they have no choice but to, in most cases, order a replacement, and normally that's heading towards Airbus, which is a win for the European plane maker that continues to develop further variants to its A321 series to please more customers, and really win them over and see them switch sides. Had Boeing had an alternative to directly compete with these new A321 variants, maybe we would have seen the A321 have a less of a market share, but ultimately they're unrivaled. So, is waiting risky? Do you believe Boeing missed the boat and now they're trying to play catch up? Or do you think they have a firm plan that will pay off? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you very much for your support here on the channel. Subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you next time for more aviation analysis here on GlobeTrotting.